Welcome everybody to today's WIS Caregiver Careers webinar on starting your own or expanding your own CNA peer-to-peer mentorship program. With us today is our two experts on mentorship, Pat McBride and Natalie Knopp from Christian Living Communities out in Colorado. We also have Jillian Kitchen, our WIS Caregiver Careers communications lead. I'm Kate Badiato, the VP of Workforce Development for Wisconsin Healthcare Association and managing lead for WIS Caregiver Careers. And just let's get started. Let's jump right in here. So moving on to the next slide, we can just do a quick overview of what we're going to cover today. So we'll just do a brief rundown of WIS Caregiver Careers in general and our training goals. We'll turn it over to Pat and Natalie to hear a little bit about their background and how they came about developing this fantastic CNA mentorship model that they're going to share with us today. Then outline some of the tools that we have and some guidance on how to get started, the do's and don'ts, and then finally we'll close up with some question and answers. Speaking of question and answers, if you have any questions as we go along, please type them into the Q&A box. Jillian and I will be monitoring that box as we go along, and we'll be answering questions that we can answer as we go along. And then when we get to the end, we'll summarize any frequent questions and then turn over any questions that we weren't able to answer to Pat and Natalie. So without further ado, we'll go on to the next slide and kind of review our training goals. Okay, so WIS Caregiver Careers was expanded in 2022 thanks to a $6 million investment from the Evers administration. They invested ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act funding from the CDC into our program in order to train 3,000 new CNAs. So our goals are a factor in attrition as people go through training. So we're hoping to start with 3,000 people. Of those 3,000, we're hoping that 2,640 complete the training. Of those, we're hoping 2,323 will attain certification, and then 1,859 will achieve that 6-month retention. So in addition to those just hard and fast numbers of CNAs, WIS Caregiver Careers also has a number of additional goals focused in on supporting our employers. So the hallmark of the program is employer-led training. This is a recruitment strategy wherein employers organize and pay for the training that their employees need to do the job. And then today in particular, we're focusing in on the mentorship aspect of the program. So we're talking about this model program that Natalie and Pat have developed, and just wanted to hit on that the program also provides a $500 mentorship bonus for each, intended to be given to the mentor to acknowledge and appreciate the work that they do to develop the mentee. So the mentor can earn that $500 bonus for each mentee that makes it to that 6-month retention, and they can mentor a maximum of 2 mentees at any given time. So as employers, you can choose to participate in this mentorship programming, and it's totally optional how much you use the model that we are presenting to you. We consider it a best practice developed in the long-term care setting, and we want to give it to you as a resource to use, but you are not required to structure your mentorship program in this way in order to qualify for those 6-month $500 retention bonus, mentor bonuses. In addition, we've got those 2 criteria that in order to be eligible for the mentorship bonus, the mentee must make it to the 6-month retention mark, and they can have a maximum of 2 mentees at any given time. The other caveat on, or the criteria for eligibility for the mentorship bonus is that the mentor must be assigned within the first month of, it says hire here, but it's actually the start of training. And we did it that way in order to accommodate situations where you might be upskilling existing staff. So that's the point in time that we measure for the retention period. And we want that mentor assigned within that first month of the start of training, so that the trainee is getting that support from the get-go. Now, mentorship is not meant to replace the training of CNAs, and all of the rules and regulations associated with that are still 100% in effect. This mentorship model and idea is meant to support and add additional training on top of the required nurse aid training from the state. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Natalie and Pat. Thank you all so much for being here, and really looking forward to learning with you all. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Kate. Well, good morning, and we are very excited to be with you today. And Christian Living Communities is really honored to have been selected to provide training and tools to guide the Wisconsin nursing homes in implementing a mentor training program through WISC Caregiver Careers Program. Today, Pat and I will be sharing information about the overall mentor program. This is a community-based self-supporting program that allows the mentor champ to have all the tools and education to onboard new CNA mentors at any time within your community. This is a tried and true and tested program. We have been implementing this for 10 years. Pat put together this amazing program, and we're just very excited to share it with you. So a little bit about CLC. CLC is a faith-based, largest not-for-profit in Colorado. We service thousands of residents and guests daily, and we have over 900 employees. We also have another arm, which is Capella Living Solutions, which is our management and consulting part. And CLC just marked 50 years of service in May. Isn't that amazing, Pat? So hard to think about 50 years servicing elder adults. We're so privileged. We do have 9 communities in 3 rural settings, as well as 6 urban settings. And I'm really proud to share that we service a very diverse payer source and population. In our communities, we have CCRC, which is essentially a life plan in which our residents can stay in the same place as they transition through the aging process. We also have private pay, HUD, and Medicaid. And we have all different levels of care that we service: residential living, assisted living memory care, skilled nursing memory care, short-term rehab, adult day, and also home health. So we service quite a few elder adults daily. It's such a privilege. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Pat.
Thank you, Natalie.
You bet.
Welcome from Colorado. It's so nice that we have this opportunity to share with you our CLC mentorship program. As Natalie said, this has been around for over 10 years, and we've been very, very successful with it. And we've learned some hard lessons, and we've had some successes. So we want to share that with you as an opportunity for you to help orient new people and retain really good people. And it all comes down to making sure our residents and our elders have quality of care. So I wanted to share with you a little bit about the history of how this program was developed. So in 2012, when I first started with the Christian Living Communities, I was the director of staffing development, so much like in Natalie's role. Currently, I'm vice president of clinical and compliance. So in that role, one of the first things that my boss and the community asked was, we really need to work on retention of nurses. Can you help us? And so what I did was, and at that time, our retention rate was under 50%. Some communities was a lot worse, others were a little bit better. But we were in really a bad place. We were hurting. We were hurting financially because you know how much it costs to retrain people over and over again. Our residents were very sad that they didn't know who was taking care of them that day. We used a lot of agency. We went short-staffed. Our surveys were not all that great at that point because we had people that really didn't know what they were doing at any given time when survey walked in. And our quality of care, our quality measures were not where we wanted them to be. So retention of good staff had a lot of negative connotations and issues that come with it. So I really took this on, and what I did is I looked at all kinds of research around, mentorship programs, and there really were not a lot, if any, in senior care. They were all in nursing homes. They were not in nursing homes, they were in hospitals. And so I knew we were we're different in many ways from hospitals. And so what I did is I interviewed so many nurses and CNAs that either stayed, and I interviewed them and said, why are you still here, even though you're working with agency and you're working short and those kind of things. And then I interviewed a whole lot of people who left. And I started to see some themes in why people were leaving or why people were staying. And two themes rose to the top. One was, I'm staying because I have friends at work and I love the residents. The other is I'm leaving because I don't have a friend at work and I don't know how to do my job the way they want me to do it. So, every nursing home and even every neighborhood in one nursing home have different rules, right? Whether they're expected or they're unwritten, and we have different ways of doing things. And so those are the two things that I went with, is creating a best friend at work and an environment where people can learn skills in a non-threatening way. So the whole mentorship program is based on those two premises. So our program has been going on for 10 years. We have mentorship program for every new nurse and every new CNA that comes into any one of our communities. They're assigned a mentor. We also, the nice thing with the mentor program is it can be used in other scopes of service, such as dining. I mean, you can use it in any area that the basic structure you can use in any area where retention is an issue. So we assign every new CNA or new nurse, and we call them mentees when they're new. They're assigned a mentor, and that mentor works with them for a full year. And we found that it needed to be a full year, not just a couple weeks, because the needs of new hires vary throughout the time that they are getting acclimated to your communities and your neighborhoods. So in the beginning, I need to know how to do catheter care, how you do it in your community, right? But then later on, there's things like because we have to work on that best friend at work, is, I just lost my favorite resident and I really need to talk to somebody about it. And I want to talk to my mentor. So the program is for a full year. The beginning of the program, it's much more skills competencies and learning the written and the unwritten roles. And then as it goes on, it's more about relationships. And Natalie will get into that a little bit more. So besides retention rates, we are now around 90% retention rate for nurses and CNAs. I mean, that goes up and down, and it certainly did with COVID. But we're really happy with where we are. And the communities that really embrace the mentor program and have really strong mentors are really close to the 90-93% retention rate. And we do that in the first year. So it's very successful and very impactful. But we also learned that there's other benefits besides retention that showed up that we want to share with you. First is it really energizes and engages your associates. We found that our CNAs and nurses were kind of in a rut. right? And they were just tired of doing the same thing. They were tired of working on the med cart. They were tired of, doing skincare all the time. They wanted something different. And so this was an opportunity for people to expand and do and learn new things. It also allows us to identify and develop future leaders in our communities. So our mentors are definitely an elevated position in our communities. They have been asked to do public speaking at some really big conferences to talk about the mentor program and the impact it's had on them. We use them for focus groups. So whenever we have an issue such as, we're looking at wage adjustments, or we have HR concerns in some way, or we're looking at developing or bringing in new equipment that's very expensive, like call lights, et cetera. We quite often will pull the mentors together and ask their opinion because they really know what will work for them and what the feeling is out there in the community that we as leaders need to be aware of, right, before we make some big changes. So it's really, really helpful to use your mentors in that capacity. Of course, we're having happier residents. When we first started this program, I interviewed residents too, and I'll never forget this woman who I asked, how is it going with staffing? And she was the sweetest lady. She started to cry and she said to me, I can't believe how many strangers I have helping me in the bathroom. It's embarrassing and it's undignified. And I thought, well, there's my marching orders for this mentor program. So our residents, having stable staff means everything to them. It means we know their simple pleasures. It knows that they want a nice hot cup of coffee when they wake up. It means that they know the skills to take really good care of the resident. It means they know the residents well and their families. And you can just imagine, you all know the impact that has on the residents' experience and the quality of care. The other thing is your DONs, your health and wellness directors, your people in leadership will spend so much less time in interviewing and orienting and getting people up and running. You all know that when you have a low retention, when you have a low retention rate, people are always hiring. And your leadership always has to do background checks and interviews and orient, and then they leave. And then you have to get somebody else on board. It's just the gerbil wheel. You're just going around and around and around. So when you have higher retention rates, your leaders can do other things like help develop your staff, hold people accountable, those kind of things that they really want to spend time on, projects, not just being on that gerbil wheel, running as fast as they can to make sure we have staff. The other thing is the skills training, the competencies are really, really helpful in many ways. So one way they're helpful is to make sure everybody's on board and they know exactly how you want to do, how you or your state or your community requires a skill to be done. And they're able to be adjusted at any time. So with COVID, we had to change a lot of policies, right? And so they're very flexible. So it's not just your competency is done. You can change it and retrain on it. It also helps us be very prepared for a survey at any time, because your people, we go through our competencies every year so that people are up to date. And so this allows everyone to know exactly how you do a skill and in what sequence, so that when state comes, they can pull those competencies out and review it, or they know things by heart when they're asked to do pericare, for example, in front of a surveyor, or do a med pass. It's very nerve-wracking, but they have that written down and they know exactly how to do that. And then you can also use it if you have a plan of correction, if surveys there and you have to do a plan of correction. Let's say you get a tag for hand washing, which is what we all get in all the time, right? You can pull that out and make sure everybody is retrained the competency and send those in for your plan of correction. So we use those a lot like that. Another way we use our competencies is, I don't know if you've ever had this, but sometimes we have hiring can make you humble. And sometimes you can get an employee who says things like, nobody ever told me that you need 2 people for a Hoyer lift. And they have a bad, let's say we have a resident who they were doing a 1-person Hoyer lift and there's a bad outcome. Someone slides out of the sling and has an injury. We can pull the competency and say, look, you signed it here and your mentor signed it here, that it says you will always use 2 people. So it's a good thing to have in case you're in some of those human resource situations where you need to prove that training has been done. The mentorship program also is a great way to establish a career ladder, right? Because this is one of the step ups for CNAs and nurses. So if you want to start a career ladder, the mentorship is a great way to do that. The other thing is mentors, when they are being trained, learn a lot during the training that they might not have known before. So you're going to have a baseline of your mentors all knowing exactly the right way to do things, because your mentors have probably learned some shortcuts and some different ways of doing things, so you can get everybody on the same baseline. And probably another really important thing is you're not losing really good new CNAs or nurses, but you'll be doing it with CNAs because they don't know the rules or because they're not in an environment that's comfortable to learn the rules. So it creates a community where people feel comfortable to learn and to make mistakes and then to relearn them, so that they're not going to be running off with their hair on fire saying, I'm not working there. It's not a comfortable place to learn. And the most important thing that you will have with an unexpected benefit is you will have happier residents and better quality of care.
Thank you, Pat. That is the bottom line. That's why we're all here, to service our residents. So what is the mentor program? As Pat shared, it's a formal process and orientation for onboarding our new CNAs. And so we just wanted to start with the definition so that we all understand what those are. So the mentor is a person who takes special interest in helping another learn, develop, and succeed. And mentoring is where the mentor and the mentee work together to discover the mentee's potential abilities and really build upon them. And then the mentee is a person who is in a position and is a partner in a relationship with a mentor. So I think that that's really the important part, is that this is really a partnership. It's a relationship, and it's that friendship that is starting to be started. And so really the goal of the mentor program is to, again, provide that structure for mentoring relationships. It's to help that new associate gain an understanding of organizational values, relationships, and as Pat shared, those unwritten rules that we know exist within our communities, and to have somebody safe to go to learn those rules. To organize and reward experienced associates, again, for that quality of their work and their commitment to the well-being of your organization, and to provide a stable work environment in which all associates can learn and grow. Very essential. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Pat.
So what we would like you to start thinking about is, in your community, who would be a good mentor champion? So we call them mentor champs. So this is the person that runs the program. So this does not have to be a nurse, although quite often it's a nurse or a really good CNA. But we have seen mentorship programs being run with a champion with people that are not even in nursing. So I know one community uses their business office manager as their champ. I've had a community, when I've spoke on this before, came up and they said, there is a person in accounting who loves to teach and she needs a project. And she's super excited about this because she understands how important CNAs are to the quality of care and to the financial stability of the community. So she ran the championship program. So what we want you to do is really think about who in your community are the bright stars. Someone that would be able to champion this program. So this person can be in a formal or maybe an informal position. So it doesn't have to be someone with a leadership title, but it has to be. So some of the things that I think are really important in a champion, their characteristics, are they have to be organized. This takes some organization. They have to be able to have the time to run the program. It does take some time commitment. So as a leader, you might have to take some things off of their plate if you're having them run this program. They really have to believe in the program and the importance of mentorship. It's great if they know a little bit about data so that they can say, you know, this is our retention rate now. And then after a few months with the mentorship program running, we are now at this retention rate. But, you know, data is always really important to help sell and evaluate a program. They have to be organized, detail-oriented, enthusiastic. It's important that someone is really excited about this program and can share that, because it's a little bit scary for new mentors to say, I want to be a mentor, I can do it. Sometimes you have to be able to really help them believe that this would be really good for them and benefit them and the community. They have to be a delegator. So this person, this mentor champion who's going to organize and run the program, doesn't have to do all the training. They have to be able to keep the program running, but they can delegate someone. So they can delegate a nurse or a CNA to do some of the skills lab, because an accountant or a business office manager cannot do the skills lab because you have to know the skills. So that would have to be a nurse or maybe an elevated CNA to do that. But they can certainly do some training around leadership and conflict resolution and some of the other training that we're going to get into later, but they certainly can be qualified to do that kind of training. But you can delegate, right? So if you have data that has to be collected, the mentor champ doesn't have to do that personally. They can delegate that to someone else, but they have to make sure that that person is doing what they're doing, that they need to do, and get back to you. So a really good leader. They have to be really supportive, a supportive personality, because the mentors are going to need someone to go to say, I have a problem. They have to be a problem solver. The mentors are going to go to this champ and say, you know, I'm having a really hard time in my community. Can you help me with this problem, or help me develop this form? So they have to be able to be really creative and supportive, and a problem solver, and tenacious. So again, a formal or informal position, and think of someone that might want to be moving up the ladder a little bit in your organization. This would be a great opportunity for them to be a superstar and be able to prove themselves so that they can be considered for succession planning.
Great, thank you, Pat. And so we do want to go a little bit over the role of the mentor champ within your community. As Pat shared, really be thinking of who this individual would be, the super excited superstar in your community. And again, it doesn't need to be somebody that's clinical to oversee the program in full. So really the mentor champ is that one that oversees the mentor program as a full program. Again, those tasks can be delegated to others, and they conduct new mentor training as needed. So at CLC, just to give you, for instance, we onboard new mentors twice a year. We do that in July and in January due to one, attrition, which we hope not to lose our bright shining stars that are mentors, but we know that that can happen. But also to give an opportunity for those new rising stars to be mentors within that community, to really bring that excitement and joy and the new feelings of being that mentor into our community. So we train twice a year for those new mentors. And then set the expectations for that elevated role. As Pat shared, the mentors are an elevated role within our community, and the mentor champion sets that bar. It is a privilege to be a mentor at our community, and you can see from what Pat was sharing, just all the positives that are associated for our community, our residents, and our staff for having that elevated status within our community with having those mentors. The mentor champion would also want to lead meetings, education, trainings, again, those audits, or those could also be delegated as well, but they do need to oversee that full picture of the mentor program. And then incorporates clinical orientation. For CLC, the mentor program is an extension of our clinical orientation. They really work hand in hand. So at some point, it would really benefit your community to incorporate the clinical orientation into the mentor program, because really those mentors would be able to help with clinical orientation, but not only that, but really greet those new associates as they're coming in the door, a personal hello, call that new associate the night before. Hi, my name's Natalie. I'm going to be your mentor. I'm super excited to have you. If you could park on the side street where the rest of the staff park, make sure to bring your lunch because we don't have a dining room, but we do have a refrigerator. Make sure to keep your purse in your trunk of the car because we don't have lockers. And I will greet you personally at the front door with your name tag and your shirt. That way you feel like you're a part of our team already. So really it's important to incorporate the mentors into that clinical orientation. And then process to test out competencies for existing associates. Like Pat shared, there are so many positives to ensure that you have a full set of competencies for each of your staff members, including those that are not a mentor or those that are existing staff. And then oversee the clerical elements. So as Pat shared, this could be delegated, but the mentor is going to need to pair the new hires with the mentors. They're going to need to collect the completed competencies and put those into employee files to ensure that we are survey ready at all time. Enter the bonuses into the spreadsheet and coordinate payment with payroll. They're going to be auditing paperwork and bonuses that are processed, and implement that expanded role for the mentors. Again, like Pat shared, testing of new equipment, and they could help with empathy training. I mean, really, the sky's the limit on how your mentors can really benefit your community and the residents that you serve. And then celebrate. The mentor champ is really in charge of celebrating our mentors, whether that's a holiday party or maybe having the mentors help with interviewing new staff, as that's a huge celebration, getting those new employees into our community and having those vetted by the mentors, and evaluate again new technology and equipment, and just you can really implement your mentors in so many positive ways within your community. But really that mentor champion is the one that's really going to ensure the success of the mentor program within your community. All right, next slide. And so you want to identify also those new CNA mentor candidates within your community. And this is the person who takes special interest in helping another learn, develop, and succeed. They offer, again, that insight, knowledge, perspective, and wisdom that can be useful for that new associate. We have implemented having a mentor for each neighborhood and shift. And if you can have that 2 deep, that's even better. We all know that each shift has different priorities and tasks that they need to perform, and each neighborhood has a different feel and, of course, different residents. And so if you can have a mentor, again, in each neighborhood and shift, that will be really beneficial for that new hire. And then we use a written application and a personal interview process. Again, we see this as an elevated role. So this is a formal process that we go through. We have never turned anyone down that wants to become a mentor. It's just the process to show that this really is that elevated role within the community. And then training new CNA mentors. You can train them within your community by your mentor champ at any time with all the tools and the program that Pat and I are sharing. All right. Next. Great. Thank you. Back to you, Pat.
Okay, so we are going to share with you. So don't freak out about all the things that are going on. We are going to, hopefully many of you that are on this call today, there are 53 of you. I hope you're really considering personally being the mentor champ, because it's very fulfilling, and to see the change in your community and seeing mentors grow into elevated roles and do things that they never thought was possible is very, very rewarding. And you can support these people and see better quality of care for your residents. It is a, it'll be some extra work, but it'll be very, very worthwhile and beneficial to you. So we're going to share with you all the structure you need to do the mentor program. So that includes, there's an 8-hour mentor training that Natalie mentioned that we do twice a year. And that is, it's broken up into 2 sections. So the morning is 4 hours of didactic or sort of lecture training around how to work in the program, how to be a leader, how to do conflict resolution, teamwork, all those kind of things. So the things that your mentors probably have never been trained on before, but are very, very powerful. And then in the afternoon, we set up a skills lab. So this would be where you'd have to have a nurse or a CNA, and the mentors go through all of the competencies themselves. And this is where they have some aha moments about, oh, I forgot that step, or I never did it this way. And so it's really important that the people that will be doing the training know how to do the training really well, and they know exactly how it needs to be done. So that's an 8-hour mentor training. All of the templates and the tools will be available. And Kate, do you want to kind of show us where that is?
Sure. I think on the next slide, we've got the list of all the different items, and we just wanted to show the audience where to access these tools and give you a little flavor of what they look like. We don't have to go through each and every one individually, but we did want to give you a feel for it so that when you go to navigate these online resources, you know where to look and have a little bit more familiarity with it. So on the next slide, if we could go to the next slide.
Right. And so then I will just also add that
Sorry.
Not to worry, every PowerPoint is involved, every certificate, every application, all of the tools that we have used will be at your fingertips and will be available to you. So you don't have to create the wheel. Everything has been there, and we have developed them over 10 years. So they've been developed and redeveloped.
Yeah. Great.
Okay.
Thank you, Pat. And then I think Kate's going to bring up some of the tools. And
Yeah.
so We're again just going to show you some of the tool offerings. Everything is available on the website. And the tools that we're presenting are not necessarily in the order that you would be using them within your community in real life. But of course, we have to put them in an algorithm so that you can see what we have available. Pat and I are always available for questions. So once you do implement the mentor training, we really encourage you to reach out to us by email. We'll have that information on the last slide so that when you're using these tools in real life, if you have questions on anything, just reach out to us. And so we have the program policy available for you. This is taken from our policy. It defines the program and it sets the expectations. Again, it really highlights the elevated role within our communities that the mentor is.
So shall I go over to the?
You bet.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Does that work for you?
Yeah, that works great.
Okay.
So here we go. I'm going to go over to the screen now. Okay, so everybody, in your chat box, I put the link to this drive. Okay, so that's how you access it. We'll also send out an email afterward with the link, but if you wanted to copy that down for your records now, you can go ahead and do that. Oh, I forgot to hit share. There we go, share. Okay, so do you all see the Google Drive?
Yes, we are good. Thank you.
So with that policy that Natalie just mentioned, it's in our Mentor Champ Phase 1 folder. And you can see here that we've organized it into PDFs. That's if you just want to use the WIS Caregiver Careers branding. So you'll see it's got the WIS Caregiver Careers logo on it, and it's in PDF form. Okay. Now, if you wanted to customize it to add your logo, you can use our Word docs. So for instance, here's the policy that Natalie just mentioned. And it really sets, I think they did a really wonderful job developing this policy. It sets the expectation, it says the why, lays out the goals, and it's easily customizable to your needs. So again, like, we don't have any program requirements that you establish a policy like this. And Natalie, I don't know, do you want to talk a little bit about it, or do you want to keep moving? Up to you.
Oh yeah, we can talk through it. So like Kate shared, any of the tools that we have developed and we're sharing with you, you can use as you would like. Again, you can add your own element to the Word document. If you go down just a little bit, Kate, our general guidelines are based on our HR definitions. And so you may want to change some of those. But what we have found is really we want individuals that are in good standing. They're not currently in any discipline processes, of course. Attendance is extremely important. They exhibit the proudness of working within our organization. I mean, you can see all the bullet points are those really shining stars. Again, whoever you select as a mentor is going to be sharing those traits with your new associates. So you want that individual mentor to be the one that you want to represent your community and the work ethics that you set up, as well as how they treat our residents, because really that's the bottom line.
Great. And I can see from an HR perspective, Natalie, that this could come in really handy for questions that might arise on why someone couldn't be a mentor.
Absolutely.
And would provide very clear guidance in terms of what they need to do, how they can get their performance to the level that they could participate. So again, I just think having a policy, it sounds like, oh, maybe it's not important, but it comes in handy.
It really does. Yeah. Well, we would hope that we wouldn't need to weed anybody out that wants to become a mentor. However, we do have to be very mindful that this individual is representing the best of the best within our community, and they are training our new associates. So we want those new associates to be trained with the best of the best, the bright star, right? Yeah. So that lays it
So-
out.
Yeah, so also in this champ phase 1, mentor champ phase 1 folder, we've got this mentor prep for the mentor train the training. Now, I think we are going
You
to
can-
talk about that on another day, right?
No, you can go ahead and
Oh,
pull that up,
oh,
and I'll just
okay.
show it really quick. This
Okay.
is really for your mentor champ to help prepare for the training day. You're going to write down the name of the associate that's attending, their phone number, their email. What we found over time is that everyone works a different shift, a different time. We might not see the individual going through the mentor training, but we want an easy access form to grab their email really quick so that we can send them information about the upcoming training. The expectations, where it's going to be held, the times, all the specifics that they need to attend that training. And then if you have multiple roles that you're sending through the mentor training, like Pat shared, we have nurses and we have CNAs and we have QMAPs and we have personal care workers. So if you have multiple disciplines going through, it's really important that you have a way to organize what competencies you're going to be teaching during that mentor training day, during the skills lab. So this just allows you to have a head count and be able to coordinate with those mentors that are coming on training day.
Okay, so this is a tool that the mentor champion would use.
Correct.
To get organized for that 8-hour day of training that is provided to the mentors. And this is the content that's delivered in the afternoon, which is the hands-on skills training. At our next webinar, we'll be going into detail about how you prepare that day, that afternoon.
Yeah, perfect.
And so this is like the foundation that you use to get started. Who's participating? You just need to know that as a baseline.
Exactly. And if you have multiple buildings like we do, this is extremely helpful, right? So throwing it out there for organizations that have multiple communities within Wisconsin that are attending that training, very helpful to help organize for that mentor champ.
And this is Jillian just chiming in. We had a couple questions come in about where to locate the materials. So just a reminder that this is posted in the chat for the webinar today. And we'll also be resending it out post webinar as well.
Great. And then we're getting pretty close on time. So maybe just pull up that mentor application. And this is the application that can be filled out by the new mentor going through the mentor champ or going through the mentor training. The recommendation can be by leadership, a supervisor, or peers. So really anyone can recommend that new mentor going through the mentor training. So again, that elevated role and having a formal interview process is really beneficial. The other thing is if somebody gets recommended, but they really don't have the heart for it, some people are awesome with our residents, but they're not really good at training. We don't want to have somebody feel uncomfortable or not 100% on board. So we want to have that conversation prior.
Great.
And then the training packet on training day, how we will be going through that training packet on November 8th during the How to Train the CNA Mentors. So again, that will be available to you. You'll see how Pat and I use all the information within that packet during the training, and everything is available for you to download and print so that you have easy access when you train your own mentors at your community. We also have the Train the Trainer training PowerPoint. It's all ready to go. So all you have to do is print and go. It has all the talking points. It has all the education. It's super interactive and fun. So like Pat shared, we have all the tools, everything that you need to implement the program at your fingertips. Let us know if you have questions, but we really do encourage you to look on the chat, grab that, grab where the tools are located and just start going through the tools. And if you have questions, let us know. But we really have the structure from A to Z.
And just to clarify, this slide lays out the order in which these tools would be used in real life. So you
Yes.
start with your policy, then
Yep.
you prepare for that training day for the mentors. Then
Mhm.
you select your mentors
Yep.
through application and peer recommendation. Then you do the didactic
Right.
learning, which is the training packet on the day,
Yes.
including the PowerPoint. And then at the afternoon of that training day, you do your skills clinic, which you use the supplies list for.
Correct. And then the next slide, we would give that a mentor graduate, we would invite them to our leadership team. That's what we do. And we introduce our new mentors because, again, that is an elevated role. We give them a certificate of achievement during that time, and we give them a pin and a ribbon to put on their name tag so that they have a mentor pin to help designate, wow, this is one of our amazing mentors. And we give you the location or the company that we purchased the pins and the ribbons from. We give you that information on the form so that you can go ahead and order those. We also share the mentor biographies during the graduation ceremony so that others can learn a little bit about them and their backstory and their successes and what brought them into the career and a service of our residents. And we recognize and celebrate our new mentors. And we also have internal mentor meetings where our mentors meet together, they collaborate, they talk about best practices, they might talk about challenges and how they overcome them. But it's really important that you bring your mentors together as you would any other meeting, because it's a great way for them to help support each other, support the mentor program within your community. And the mentor champ can really help facilitate that and help that program grow. And oftentimes that's how we find different ways to celebrate mentors, such as different training offerings, different like Pat shared, if we have a new product coming on board, they can help with rating that product and see if it's something that we want to implement within our community. But really those mentor trainings or mentor meetings are how we can help determine next steps and make that program really exciting for our mentors. And then you also have in the tools, the mentee mentor evaluation, we have the mentor and the mentee sit down together and they kind of evaluate each other and they talk about what's going well, what's not going well. Do you have any questions, anything that I can help you with? Because as Pat shared, this is a one-year program. We want to ensure that our new mentees are supported for that 1 year. And as Pat shared before, the conversations are going to change over time. As that friendship forms, so do the questions. The questions get more in depth and have more meaning, and they're just not skills based. So the mentor and the mentee fill out evaluation forms during a cup of coffee, a lunch, whatever that looks like, but do set aside a little bit of time for them to be together alone, just to be able to chat. The mentor and mentee evaluation forms are then turned into payroll. And that's how we pay our mentors. And those evaluations are filled out at 30-day, 60-day, 90-day, 120-day, 6-month, and 1 year. And when those evaluations are turned in, that's when we pay our mentor. Now, we know that the system that you have set up is a little bit different with the WIS caregiver bonus structure. And so if anyone wants to chat with Pat and I about how that would maybe look at their community, if they want to implement this for a year, I don't believe that the $500 bonus is prescribed to be given at a one time. I believe that could be divided out. Is that correct, as long as they hit that mark. So
Yes,
that
as
might
long-
be something.
Yeah, and they can choose to structure it like if you wanted to give part of it on
Right.
30 days, a part of it at 60 days.
Yeah.
On whatever works best for your facility, and then that 500
Mm-hmm.
is really the floor. If the floor level, if you wanted to do more than that, then by all means go for it.
Mhm. Yes, yes. Yeah, exactly. And then we do have a bonus spreadsheet. It's our tracking tool that we've given to you. Extremely beneficial. Absolutely track every payment that you send into payroll, because we've had instances where the mentor says, I didn't see this payment on my check this week. And so it gives you an opportunity to look at that tracking tool and share, oh, well, I sent that over to payroll on 10/15. Let's check with payroll and see where that sits. Or, oh my gosh, I didn't receive your mentor-mentee evaluation form. Can you get that to me? And then I'll make sure to process that. So it gives you a good look back, and it really helps save you.
One of the, if we could go back just for a second, I
Yeah.
think one of the real amazing parts of this model is the structure that it gives. And I love how you've structured it such that if you want your bonus, you got to turn in your evals.
Yeah.
And that how there's like a system in place for that.
Yes.
And so all of these tools help you implement that structure.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we did, Pat and I receive a few questions from your last cohort saying, how do you keep everybody excited for a full year? You know, what does that look like? And so we shared, you know, we have this payment system set up for a full year of engagement. And we decided on those timeframes based on when we see new hires quit. Right? If we can retain them for a full year, we can pretty much guarantee they're going to be a long-term successful employee. So really, we want to ensure that the mentor and mentee sit down together, have that conversation, form that relationship, that friendship, learn what they need to do for their position, and touch base again at that 30-day mark, that 60-day mark, the 90-day mark, the 6 month and 1 year. And then we have our bonus structure around those touch points. That's the most important thing, that friend at work. And this just helps solidify that, gives them a little incentive to sit down and have those conversations.
So should we take some of the questions before we move on so people aren't confused?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so one of it, is it important to have mentors who work the same position or shift as the mentee? We think it's really important because you're training your coworker, you're training your partner that you're going to be working with. So if you can have your mentor and mentee working the same shift, it certainly helps, and they'll get to know the residents better. So it's not absolutely necessary, but I think it's very helpful in creating that best friend at work. So is the program designed for incoming staff who are already CNA certified, correct? Yes, that is correct. And do you recommend assigning mentors to existing staff, say those who have been with the organization for less than 6 months or less than 1 year? And if so, would it work best on a voluntary basis or for those who would like to mentor? So I think the program is just for new CNAs, the program that's set up. But we have used it also with people that are struggling and need to go back through the program because they need, they maybe didn't have the right mentor that they really weren't working well with or needed some work with competency. So yes, you can make this work for whatever the need is. And what have you found to be the best times to meet? So I assume this is the mentor meeting. Of course, you want to ask your mentors what's the best time, but I can tell you we meet monthly and never around meal times because they're very busy in the dining rooms of the residents. And we have communities across Denver, so quite often we will meet in other communities. So the mentors will go to a sister community to meet. But I would ask them what works great. Sometimes it's around 10 o'clock in the morning. I think 4 o'clock seemed to work. But I would ask them what works best for them. Okay. So struggles and successes. We've had our share. I could probably spend an hour on these, but I'm just going to hit some of the highlights. So one of the big ones is, especially when you're starting a program, is when your mentors are picked and they're interviewed and we celebrate them and we talk about them in your leadership meetings and we introduce them and we have their biographies in your newsletter or on your TV station. And we have mentor pins and they're feeling all good about themselves and elevated. What can happen, as you can imagine, is their coworkers sometimes look at them and say, well, who do you think you are, Miss Mentor? So sometimes that can create a little backlash. So we had to do some role playing with our new mentors and saying, okay, what's the best way to handle that? And pretty much we said, well, yeah, it's really cool to be a mentor. Is this something you might want to consider? Because if so, I can share with you what it's like, and maybe I can recommend you. I could be your peer review. So just know that all that celebration sometimes can make the mentor feel kind of alienated from their friends. So just know that. The mentor program sometimes will start out slow. You might not have a whole lot of people applying to be mentors. Hang in there. Once they see success, other people will want to join. So just know that. Make sure you don't give mentors too many mentees. And I know the program is capped out at 2, which is really important. Also know that sometimes mentors are going through something personal or something that takes more time for them, school or, a sick mom or something, and they might have to bow out for a little while. We allow that, and then they can return. Mentor meetings are very valuable because that's where they can feel accepted and create ideas and do role playing. Mentors, once this program gets going, are, these are the best of your best. They get a little bit excited and they also get bored. So make sure you keep them involved in your community. So our mentor meetings, we would have a 6-month goal. So mentors, what are we going to do this 6 months? And we did training. We did empathy training. So mentors went from community to community to do training on what does it feel like to be living with disabilities or dementia. That was hugely successful. They set up the whole training. We trained our mentors to be interviewers, to be the first line interviewers for new staff. So, they had to do a lot of training with HR, what to ask, what not to ask, but that was really exciting for them. Our mentor meetings, we had leadership come in, like our C-suites, like CFO and CEO and COO, and introduce themselves and ask them how it's going, or the CFO would go over the budget and, a level of that they were interested in. So they felt like they were getting attention and, information from the highest leaders. Make sure you hire mentors for the cultural fit. So you don't want to hire a mentor that is really good with skills, but really doesn't have the heart, because your mentee is going to follow your mentor, not only, how they do things, but how they interact with people, how they interact with your residents. Those are the skills that you cannot train on quite often. You can train anyone to do a skill, but it's really hard to train someone to be a cultural fit. So make sure you're not just looking for who's the best CNA that, gets everybody showered in a timely manner. Look for the CNA that the residents really like, or who is excited to train, who has the hospitality personality. Those are very, very important traits. And you can always train skills. Make sure you get enough mentors for each shift, because they are training a coworker. And if somebody's working nights, they might not know. And if they're training on days and then they shift to nights, they're going to flounder a little bit because their mentor isn't there. make sure all the training is done with a mentor. So what happens when you have an environment where you don't have a mentor is, let's say I'm a new CNA and I forget to empty my trash at the end of my shift. And, it's an honest mistake. I just didn't know that's what we were supposed to do. And if I have, the 5 other CNAs that are working with me, telling me over and over again, empty that trash, I told you, blah, blah, blah. It's not a comfortable environment to learn. And so we make sure that any direction comes through the mentor, because they've already experienced that relationship. They already have a trust built. And if my mentor says to me, hey, Pat, I know I went over this already, but I want to remind you that you have to empty the trash after your shift. I'm going to take that a lot more in a much more comfortable environment from my mentor than I would from a whole bunch of people telling me that. So that creates the environment of it's okay to make a mistake, and I'm not going to leave because my feelings have been hurt. So that's really important. And I think when we just look at my list, I had a whole lot. Your mentors are going to have great ideas and you follow up on them. So for example, we had a mentor that was having surgery and her doctor called her, or the community, the hospital called her the night before and told her what to expect, what to wear. And so the mentor said, hey, why don't we do that? And so that was their idea. A lot of it is, is from the ground up. And so they came up with a process where the mentor will call the mentee once they know they're assigned, introduce themselves, say, I am the 63-year-old woman with brown hair. I'm going to meet you at the door at 5 o'clock tomorrow. I'm super excited to meet you. I will have your uniform. I'm going to introduce you. We're going to do a little scavenger hunt. And it just makes people feel like it's important to be there, and they're not showing up, asking the concierge, where do I go? Who do I talk to? It makes them feel really involved right off the bat, that they are valuable. So there's a lot of things that we have learned through this process, and we will get into more stories as we do the mentor training. And you will come up with your own successes and struggles. But again, as Natalie said, we are here for you to help problem solve those and to celebrate those.
All right, well, we are hoping that you are just as excited about starting your mentor program as we are to help support you through that program. And so steps for success. You want to, again, identify that mentor champion, that person that is going to oversee the full program. Again, items can be delegated to others, so don't feel overwhelmed. This is a community effort and not just one person effort. So again, identify that mentor champion. We're hoping that some of those mentor champions are with us today. And then you're going to obtain top level buy-in. Leadership should also attend our webinar trainings just to understand and support the mentor program. It's really important that that top level buy-in is supported. And if you're here today, we are assuming that you already have that top level buy-in. So you've already hit the mark on that. And then determine and secure the budget. If you're adding additional compensation other than the $500 grant amount. So if you, again, need any suggestions, how you could maybe spread out those that bonus payment for a full year, or if you just need some best practices, again, please reach out to us. We really support a 1-year program. We have found that that's how we can retain our new associates. And then think about how to set aside time for the mentor champ to complete the paperwork and clerical items. There are going to be quite a few forms and delegation and systems that need to be set. Again, we have everything laid out for you. We have all of the tools that you need, but they are going to need some time to look through those tools and come up with their own systems and really help to make this successful within your community. And then secure the CNA Skills Station supplies. We will be discussing that further in our next webinar for the skills session. And then integrate your clinical orientation in the mentor program. Again, we found that it's best practice to integrate the mentor program into our orientation for a seamless effect. And then make sure that you have a sustainable partnership in the training through the WISCare Careers Partnership. Again, all those tools, everything that you need are available to you. And then identify and train your mentor champ in leadership during the How to Train Your CNA Mentors. That is the 4-hour didactic training that Pat and I will be doing. That will be the same exact education, PowerPoint, activities. It's super engaging and a really fun training. It's the same exact training that the mentor champion will be using within your community for onboarding new mentors. And then make sure to have ongoing reinforcement with the mentor program. You want to just ensure that everybody's on board, especially in the leadership position, and they are supporting that mentor champion for rolling out the mentor program. It really is an amazing program. It has so many positives, as you've heard today, and we're just really excited for you to get started with this. And then celebrate the mentor program coming into your community. It might start off small, like Pat shared. It might just have a few mentors. That's okay. As you learn and grow as a mentor champion, the program is also going to grow and you're going to have your successes, and just make sure to celebrate that. So we really are super excited for you to just start the mentor program, whatever that looks like, just taking those first steps. I think that you're going to find that it's a very user-friendly, adaptable program that you can just implement right away within your community. All right, I think next is Kate or Jillian.
Yeah, and actually, before we go to the next slide, I think we just had a question from the audience about, have you ever had to replace a mentor mid-year? And if so, how did that go, or what did that look like?
We have had to replace the mentor, yes, at different various times. Sometimes our personalities just might not get along, right? We all have our own personality, and the personality of the mentor and the mentee just might not be meshing, and might not be supportive of each other, and that's okay. And we do teach our mentors that, and our new associates, if it's not a good fit, just let your supervisor know, or the mentor champion, and we can certainly change that mentor for that individual. It's important that we have a really good, cohesive friendship team that's also teaching the skills. So we have had that happen. And what we've done in those situations is just sit down the mentor and the mentee together or separate, and just determine what is the problem, and then just help problem solve. And it could be just having a different mentor, and that's all right. Any other questions? All right. Good deal.
Well, thank you so much, Natalie and Pat. This is such great content. And it really is something that our audience can just use right out of the box and adapt to their own purposes right away. So thank you. Jillian, then I would just wanted to go through some of the finer points of WIS Caregiver Careers for anybody who may be needing some more information about how do I go about getting my reimbursements, and how does how does this program work? So we just wanted to kind of give you the run through of it. So the way that the hiring process works, okay, you can have people come into your training program through our WIS Caregiver Careers website, our tools that the program provides. In that avenue, a member of the public sees one of our ads on TV, on the radio, on Facebook. It drives them to go to wiscaregiver.com. Once they're at the website, it drives them to the map, and then also to the registration page. And then from there, email is sent out to the employers within that 50-mile radius that the registrant provides on the form. Now, alternatively, you can hire people from the community according to your regular sourcing methods, or you can upskill your current staff. So say, for instance, you have a great dietary aide that you just want to recognize and move forward. You can have them do the training, and we'll reimburse you for that as well. So, you do the hiring. So on the second point here, you do the hiring according to your own standard procedures, whether it be new workers coming in, incumbent workers who are already there, and according to your own standards. So we don't really dictate, we don't say that, if we send you a referral, you have to hire them or anything like that. At that point, you can assign a mentor. You don't have to dive into all this clinical aspects of the mentorship program right at the start of training. You could have that mentorship be more focused on cultural onboarding of the facility. So like what Natalie was saying about, this is where you go to put your lunch and put your purse here and things like that. So if it's more appropriate to dive into the skills and competency aspect of this model once the person is certified. But we still recommend that on day one of employment or on training, if it's somebody moving up to a new position, that mentor relationship gets established, so that new CNA feels supported in this new career that they're taking on. It's a huge deal for somebody to change careers, and we just want to make sure that they feel supported throughout that journey. So after you get somebody on board, you get them organized, then you as the employer can coordinate and pay for the CNA training up front. That means that you can send them to your local tech college. You can send them to a private company that you've had good success hiring their graduates. You could run them through your own in-house training program. One thing I did want to make sure that everybody knew is that we don't require you to have your own in-house training program. We want to support you. If you want to start up your own in-house training program, we can connect you with staff at DHS who can guide you through that process. The association with WHCA and Leading Age Wisconsin also provides resources to our members to help you deal with a nurse aid training prohibition situation. We can help you apply for a waiver and kind of guide you through that process as well for establishing in-house training programs. So once you get them into training, whether it be in-house, tech college, private program, whatever works best for you, they go through the training and they pass the certification exam. One point I want to make clear in terms of how they go about taking their exam is you want to complete the WIS Caregiver Careers employment verification process prior to the trainee scheduling their exam. By doing that, the reimbursement process, this employment verification process, the system automatically bypasses the payment screen. So when they go to schedule their test, you don't have to pay for it up front. The trainee doesn't have to pay for it up front. That financial aspect of taking the test is totally out of the picture. We, with Caregiver Careers, pays Headmaster, the makers of the test, directly for those trainings or for those tests. Now, if you're in a situation where you have already paid for a certification exam, you can still reach out to us and we can help you get reimbursed through a separate procedure. But yeah, just reach out to us and we'll get you squared away for any tests that you've already paid for. So should we go back to the flow there? Yeah. Awesome, thank you. So they take their class, they pass the exam. By virtue of completing that employment verification process, your trainee will automatically show up on our reimbursement reports once they get certified. So all you have to do is complete those steps. On our employer webpage, we have step-by-step instructions on how to complete that process. It's very simple. And actually, I think Jillian, you had made a slide about how to do the employment verification. So yeah, so like in TMU, once the student's account is created, that happens automatically as part of training. The trainee goes into TMU, which is convenient because when they get their TMU account set up in the training provider, they already have to go into TMU to complete their profile. So they've already been directed to get in there and do something. And so what we recommend is when they go, coach them that when they go in to complete their TMU account, they should also initiate the employment verification process. Super simple. There's an employment tab. They click on it. They select your facility. They hit submit. That triggers a message in your employer account where you already should be familiar with the verification process for the federal recertification that happens every 2 years. It's in the same section of TMU under the employment tab. There's just a new box that says funding. And the person who's in charge of TMU at your facility goes in there, says, yes, this person works here, and that's it. You get your free test that way, you get your reimbursement that way. And
I'll chime in.
Oh, go ahead.
Kate mentioned this already too, but if you haven't done that at that point in time when the registrant is training, you can retroactively go back and do that. So anyone who has previously been certified and is employed with you can still log in, can still select their employer, and you as the employer can also still verify them, and it'll trigger back to the certification date and we'll track from there once it's implemented.
Great, yes, and like anybody you have trained since April of 2022 is eligible for this reimbursement. So we really encourage you to go back through your training records, identify those new CNAs, and get them to complete this process so that we can reimburse you. One thing I will mention is that upon the 6-month mark, you do this employment verification process again. Because again, we don't want to give reimbursements to people who don't continue to work there. So this is how we verify that, yes, this person has hit that 6-month retention mark. And it's the same process. The new CNA goes into TMU, hits employment tab, selects the employer, submits it, and then the TMU contact for the building verifies it on their end. So it's a 2-step process, but after you complete that process, it's all autopilot from there. One thing I will mention is that once that trainee hits our reimbursement report, we send it to our payment processors. It's a firm called Baker Tilly. And so your TMU contact will get an email from Baker Tilly saying, we need your W-9 and we need to set up a bill.com account for you. We've had employers contact us saying like, is this a real thing? Is this something I should reply to? And so just wanted to give you a heads up that that is part of the process. And the firm that does it for us is Baker Tilly. So if you see that popping up in your email, that's why. So yeah, so happy to answer any questions. I can do the screen share to show you the step-by-step instructions. Happy to answer questions. We still have 5 minutes left before we're scheduled to wrap up. So how are we doing on questions? I don't see anything popping up. Oh, we have, I think this one is for Natalie. We do have a question that came through, Natalie. It says, I am an RN and run a licensed 4-bed group home for advanced age and developmental disabilities. I also have many years of experience as a CNA instructor. We are not required to hire CNAs for our group home, but I prefer to. I have staff I would like to send for CNA training. Would this program work for our smaller setting?
Absolutely. Yes, this program can work with one person because we want to retain one person, or if your staff is 100, we want to retain 100. Or for us, we have over 900, we want to retain 900. So this works for one up to how many ever staff you have. Absolutely.
Great. One thing I will mention is, unfortunately, due to restrictions on our funding source, we are only able to provide reimbursement to nursing homes. We don't think that is ideal. We would love to see WIS caregiver careers expanded to all long-term care settings. But currently, due to that funding restriction, we are only able to provide the reimbursements to nursing homes in Wisconsin, in the state of Wisconsin.
Good point. But the mentor program can be used in any setting, any setting.
Yeah, and we specifically wanted to invite the assisted living community, the CVRF community to this webinar because we do see it as a best practice across long-term care settings.
Absolutely.
And I think that answers, we had a couple other questions. Is this open to CNA training programs? And someone asked whether or not they have to be CNAs. And I think we just addressed that. So if there are any follow-ups on those two, please feel free to put them in the chat.
For CNA programs, training programs out there, what I would recommend you to do in order to participate or just be involved in the program is to partner with nursing homes in your area. And the way that you find those nursing homes in your area is by going to wiscaregiver.com and checking out our employer map. If you go on that map and you don't see a nursing home in your community that you know of or that your graduates go and work at, just feel free to contact us. We can always do outreach to those nursing homes who might not be participating yet to get them to sign up. Currently, we have 263 employers participating. So there's a good chance that the ones in your community are participating. But if that does happen, again, feel free to reach out to us. We want to be partners and plugged into the training community as much as we can. Do I see another question? Oh no, I didn't hit. No, that's fine. So yeah, so I think that's it. Should we put up the slide about our next session? If you haven't already registered, you can register at our employer webpage, which you can find through WHCA's website. So we hope to see you all back here. Our next one is just 1 hour long. And it's all about that second half of your CNA mentor training day. So like we mentioned, those CNA mentors get 8 hours, a full day of training. Our next session is focusing on that second half of the day, where you put your mentors through the SOP training, where, this is how we do it at this community. And they are then prepared to work with their new CNAs on how to go about doing those skills. And then the next one is the didactic, that actual word for word, PowerPoint slide by PowerPoint slide training that we'll give to you so that you can turn around and give that training to your new mentors. And then last but not least, we'll have Q&A on the 29th. So if you start getting your program going right now, you might then be able to connect with Natalie and Pat on advice or issues that you may come across. But Natalie and Pat have also been wonderful in answering questions individually. So also please feel free to reach out to them or us at WIS Caregiver Careers. We can always connect you.
And we will be sending and sharing the slides, and the slides do have both Pat and Natalie's contact information, and then the general contact information for WIS caregivers too.
Great. Well, it's 1:30 on the dot. I just appreciate you all so much for attending. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Jillian. And we'll see everybody back here on November 1st.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Happy fall day.